we see a lot of things, right? Say men's section, women, okay, and once we click a button, some data is getting displayed. Okay, everything is a part of front end. Okay, and back end is something which is very different from the front end. Okay, say it says how a web page works. For example, if we click a min option in the Amazon, okay, we don't know what happens in the back end, but we get a list of t-shirts or shirts or whatever it is. So once we click something in the front end, that is just a minute. It was not updated on Amazon site, is still getting loaded. So let us keep this Outlook, okay? So that will be, yeah, okay, fine. So this is a front end or this is a UI, okay? The front end is seen by the client, and if I click mobiles here, okay, something happens, okay, but we get the list of mobiles, okay? So what exactly happens is once we click a button or whatever it is, an API call, okay, and will be better if I explain with this diagram, okay? An API call goes to the backend, okay, and then the backend parses the response, the backend parses the request, and it interacts with the DB or the third-party tool, whatever it is, and then we get the return request. Okay. Whenever we make a request from the front end, okay, there are a lot of security mechanisms, authorizations, and we pass the request. So there are a lot of things going on there. Okay, for example, request queries, request params. Okay, so we'll be in this course we'll be seeing each and every part. Okay, in a more simple way. So before we move on to mean stack, okay, so what is mean stack? Let's just go through on what is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, and just confirming that everyone are able to hear me, right? And my screen is also visible, right? Yeah, thank you. So earlier, if you say just 10 to 15 years back, we all used HTML and CSS for everything. Okay, so it will be like we'll be creating multiple HTML pages. Okay, HTML is hypertext markup language. Okay, how to say? If you have a very basic computing knowledge, okay, you should have gone through HTML. For example, HTML tags like input, okay, and paragraph tags, creating a table using HTML and all those things. Okay, if it is not so, then fine. We'll have a session on HTML and CSS as well. Okay, so as I said earlier, we used HTML and CSS, but HTML and CSS, okay, we can only show static content. Okay, so static. So what is static and what is dynamic? Say this is static, okay, because this Amazon.in is a logo and it won't change. Okay, it won't change in the sense it won't change often at least, so it will be a static. Okay, whereas this will change based on the customer. Okay, for example, I have logged in from a location, so it will be, and I have been how to say, set this as my pin location. Okay, for delivering of goods. Okay, so this will be dynamic content. Okay, this will change according to the customer. Okay, so using HTML and CSS, we can develop only static contents. Okay, the content can't change. So, for example, if I need to add a new image, then what I need to do is I need to go and change the HTML code, add this image, and then deploy it again or whatever it is. Okay, so this is an uphill task, right? So then came the technologies like JavaScript. Okay, and yeah, before that. So JavaScript is something that it will make the HTML and CSS dynamic. Okay, so HTML and CSS earlier was static, and we use JavaScript, okay, to make this HTML and CSS dynamic. So JavaScript is just a programming or scripting language like Java. That's it. Let's keep it simple. Okay, so now moving on to mean stack web development, and we'll be having a session on JavaScript as well, because before we move into mean stack, we need to learn all these three. So these three are the fundamentals, okay? Because we'll be using the HTML as a template in Angular, okay? So, and we'll be using CSS as well, okay? CSS is for styling HTML. For example, I have created an input button. Okay, button is this is a button. Okay, now I need to color this. Okay, then I use the CSS. Okay, so before we start mean stack, we'll go into HTML and CSS and JavaScript a little bit in detail, and then we'll continue with the mean stack development. Okay, so coming to mean stack, just an overview. Okay, so Main is again mostly how to say more proficient web application technology. Okay, MERN is other one. Okay, MERN is React. Okay, instead of Angular, we'll be using React. But in this course, we'll be focusing on mean stack. Okay, so YAM stands for MongoDB. Okay, MongoDB is nothing but the database used. Okay, so everyone would have known about SQL. So what is SQL? In SQL, we would have stored the data in the form of tables. Okay, and in records or rows. Okay, here it is this is an object-oriented database, whereas we'll be storing instead of table, it will be collections. Okay, and E stands for Express.js. Okay, this is a Node.js framework. Okay, so what is a framework? Okay, for example, we have JavaScript as a programming language. Okay, JavaScript is a scripting programming language, and using this JavaScript, okay, there will be multiple how to say frameworks developed. Okay, using this JavaScript as a code base. So one among them is Angular. Okay, which can be used to develop front-end application UIs. Okay, so say for example, this is an UI and this can be developed using Angular. Okay, so Angular will be our front end and Node.js will be our back end. Okay, so Node.js is server side. Okay, and we don't have any access to it. That is, the client won't have any access to it. Okay, so stands for Express. Okay, Express is a framework of Node.js. So what exactly happens is, from Angular, I explained earlier about the front end and back end, right? So we'll be making a request from Angular, it will go to the Node server. Okay, and we'll have something called APIs. Okay, so there are different types of APIs. We'll discuss all these things. Okay, so like get, post, put, delete. Okay, so we'll make an API request, and this Express.js. Okay, this is a framework, Node.js framework, that will take care of these APIs. Okay, and then Mongo is the database. Okay, for example, if I have to pull some data from the database, or if I have to store some data into the database. For example, Amazon. If I log into, if a new user has registered Amazon, okay, then what exactly happens is that all those users' data will be saved in the database, right? So we'll use one of the HTTP methods, that is post. Okay, and what exactly happens is, from Angular we'll be posting the data, and Node.js handles the request, and Express.js uses the REST APIs, passes the request, and then the MongoDB, the data will get stored in the form of object. Okay, so this is what happens exactly. Okay, clear till now? You guys have any queries? You can ask, because I will be moving on to the tools next. Yes, and you can talk in between. That's not an issue. Hello. Any queries? Or shall I continue?
Yes,
Yeah.
nothing from my side, but sometimes your voice keeps breaking. I'm not sure if it's only me. If it's me, I'll probably check.
Oh, okay. Okay. For others, if there are any concerns. Okay, just let me know when my voice is breaking. Okay, so that will be helpful. Okay. Yeah. So I'll move on to tools there. Before I move on to tools, I'll just go on with Jmeter. Okay. So as part of this course, we'll be also covering Jmeter. Okay, so what is it? For example, there are multiple people in the projects. Okay, and we need to push the code to a specific repository. Okay, so we use GitHub, and there are many repository builders other than GitHub. For example,